Hi everyone, welcome back to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. First opposition view video of 2025, and of course it's an opponent that we don't have the greatest record against at the Vitality Stadium. Craig is back on the channel from UTC IAD. Thank you for coming back on, mate.
Yeah, not a problem at all, Steve. My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on.
So Bournemouth, they're a team that, honestly, if you gave me the opportunity now, I'd 100% want to swap with you. You guys are doing fantastic. Maybe it's partly because of the manager, so the players, but also because of just going gung ho at things and maybe a little bit of a not as much expectation. But of course, that last game, a 2-2 draw against Fulham. Tell me a bit about that.
Oh, mate, it was an excellent comeback. To get a point there as well. Of course, there's been so many teams. Of course, Chelsea have recently been beaten there as well. So many teams have been there and not got anything from Craven Cottage. We knew it was going to be a difficult game. We knew that it was going to be tough because of the amount of injuries that we had. But we come through and okay, it took a late equaliser again, and yeah, we have been well known for doing that throughout the season. Scoring these late goals. It was a late goal again that got us a point, but it keeps this record going. 7 unbeaten now, and yeah, it's interesting and exciting to see where this football club's going to go. Because nobody in their right mind would have said, this football club would ever get into, European football. But it looks very, very possible at this moment in time. Scarily possible.
Yeah, I mean, when I watch it, and I think, do you know what? That's the sort of popular craze in football now is
Yeah.
clubs coming up from the championship and they're sort of just going for it and having a go. And a lot of teams now, I mean, you look at the likes of Brighton, Newcastle, Villa, Bournemouth, everyone,
Yeah.
this whole top six thing that's sort of been conjured up in the last 10 or so years is really going out the window now because I can't remember the last time the six of them all finished in the top six together.
Completely agree. It's good.
But
It's good.
yeah, it's 100% a good thing, and I'd much rather see a team like Bournemouth in there over one of them. And of course, Andoni Iraola, he's having a fantastic season as the manager of Bournemouth. Funny enough, actually played with Jack Harrison. They might have a little exchange this weekend. Thoughts on him because obviously a very young manager and relatively inexperienced. You can't have been too convinced when he got the job, but seems to be doing a great job.
Well, this was a weird one for me because I was a big, big Gary O'Neill fan. I thought Gary O'Neill did a fantastic job of keeping us up. I think that the form tailed off towards the end of that season. And you could say that was a lucky thing for Everton as well. Of course, we played you in that last game at Goodison. And of course, you beat us 1-0 to secure safety, which, I think you were the better team on the day. Were we on the beach? I think we were probably on the beach for a number of weeks after beating Leeds and securing our safety, which was a little bit disappointing. But I was quite happy for Gary to continue. And then he was sacked and Iriola come in. Now, knowing a bit about Spanish football and Vallecano, it was an opportunist situation. I think if Iriola hadn't come up, I think we would have stuck with Gary O'Neill, and who knows where we would have been then. Um, but Iriola come in, and his philosophy impacted that on the players straight away. Now, I've got to be honest. At first, and you can probably remember that 3-0 defeat for us at Goodison in one of his first games. He just didn't hit the ground running, and it felt like the players couldn't play the way they were being asked to play by Areola. It's not that his tactics were wrong; it was that we just didn't have the personnel. It felt at that time, and I did famously make some wild suggestions that got me a little bit notoriety in the fan base and other fan bases as well. And I said, look, it's not working. Iriola's a good manager, but we need somebody in. Let's bring in Jesse Marsh. Bring in somebody who can get points on the board now. Um, it was straight after that, really. We played Burnley, and then everything just clicked into one. We beat Manchester United later on that season as well. In a 3-0 win. Of course, we've recently done that again. We went on a great run of form, and we were pushing towards the top end of the table. And yeah, Iriola proved me wrong. But what he's done this year is he's made even more strides, and his philosophy, has kind of expanded. The players that we bought in, like Evan Nilsson, again, have had such an impact. Dean Howson, a player that was wanted by so many teams, we managed to sign him from Juventus. This sort of thing didn't ever happen, to be honest, to a team like Bournemouth, because we were a team that, you know, let's be fair, we didn't have two pennies to scratch our arse together with. We were a poor club. We were on minus 17 back in 2008, nearly going out of the Football League. Um, Iriola has turned it around, and he's hot property now, mate. He really is hot property, and he's a fantastic manager. He's come on leaps and bounds. It's now more a case of, you know, how long can we keep him at this football club? Because somebody's going to come in for him. I know where he's probably going to go, and I just dread the day that football club sack their manager. But I know exactly where I think he's probably going to go.
So obviously, it's a bit of it's almost a bit written in the stars, wasn't it? That for you to come to Goodison at the beginning of this season and us go 2-0 up, and I thought it was going to be an exact repeat of last season, but we all know what happened in that one.
Yeah,
Um, let's talk a bit about us because,
mhm,
yeah, I mean, I'm sick of
yeah,
it, to be honest. The only thing that keeps me going is speaking to you guys about your clubs because Everton are just in an absolute state yet again. And I'll ask you a bit about Sean Dyche as well.
yeah.
It's just an absolute state. And I mean, for me, it's definitely hard to see so many people that really back Sean Dyche when you know then again staying in the league is one thing, but doing something with the points that you're getting and trying to turn losses into wins and draws into wins and trying to actually do what Bournemouth and Forest are doing right now. Um, I just don't think it's good enough from my point of view. But I mean, at the minute you're the club looking down on us. So what's your opinion of it?
Um, it's sad to see. I've got some strong connections with Everton and Everton fans, and the club itself as well. And it's a club that I've got so much time for and so much love for. And I think it's sad to see Everton struggling like they are. The reason for it just goes back to Farhad Mashiri, and the it's not the lack of spending, it's how he spent that money. It's overspending in the wrong places. It's been completely mismanaged as a football club. But hopefully, fingers crossed, these new owners will turn the club around in the right direction, because Goodison is an amazing stadium. And it's sad to see, you know, a, a bit of a disappointing season in the last season there, really, in my view. The new stadium looks amazing, but of course, Goodison is an old traditional stadium which fans love going to. um so yeah, it's sad from my perspective. Hopefully there's a lot of promise, a lot of good in the future. Things will move forwards for Everton. With regards to this season, my opinion on that, it's a weird one. It's a weird one for me because Everton, I don't know if you're aware, have conceded less goals than Manchester City throughout this season. And let's be fair, uh, letting quite a few goals at that in those first 4 games of the season. Um, so defensively, the defensive record is looking good. Problem is, up front, it's it's looking really, really
Toothless.
poor. Yeah,
That's the
exactly.
word I'd use. Is it's
Yeah,
absolutely toothless, and yeah,
yeah. You get some really good results. You get some good, you know, points, against Man City and against Chelsea and against Arsenal. But to then, not be able to convert some results into wins, which, maybe seems that you'd be looking to beat, Southampton, you know, I didn't watch that game, you know, um, but I'm confused how any team have been beaten by Southampton this year. Um,
as am
and
I. Yeah.
yeah, and it's a real shame because I think Everton fans deserve better. They should be getting better. But these new owners, I'm sure, will get it right, and I'm sure that there's going to be better days on the horizon because it's a great football club. So yeah, fingers
Yeah.
crossed.
Well, I mean, they've come in and they've written the debt off in the club.
Yes.
We're now effectively debt free, and when you look at the stadium, which is now finished, it officially opens next month when
Yeah.
the under-18s play the first match there, with Leighton Baines as the manager actually. So that should be really good to actually see something happening there. It does look like a top stadium, an elite
Oh yeah.
European stadium that will hopefully change some of the feelings around the club and the expectations a bit. And I'm hoping that will happen. But I think, to be honest, Craig, the biggest problem that Evertonians have with Sean Dyche, apart from where we are in the league, that's definitely the biggest problem. Is the way we play football. And we have had some good results. We've gone and got 3 points away, between Chelsea, City, and Arsenal. But it's the way the team plays football, and that's not necessarily, someone can use the stick to beat me with, would you rather have entertaining football or get results? And that's not the case at all. Evertonians don't demand entertaining football. We don't demand, tiki-taka, gegenpress, all this fantastic philosophies for the likes of Guardiola and Cruyff. We don't need that. We
Yeah.
just want, when we're on top in a game, to have an outlet to score goals. And it was obvious in the game against Forest as well last week that we can control the ball okay in the midfield, or we can, be solid and stay as a solid unit. But there's no way of turning what we can do into goals. And that is the problem in the way that we play. And it's not necessarily an entertainment thing. I'm not bothered about being entertained. I'll happily watch us, pass the ball around and score one goal and keep it 1-0 and get the 3 points. It's when you know, you've started the game okay, or you're having plenty of the ball, or you're having chances, you're not able to put them away. That again comes back to the system. So it's not necessarily the style of football that we have a problem with. I think it's the system. It's
Yeah.
being able to. I mean, look at Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Yeah, what an absolute fall from grace, and that's not necessarily all his fault. I think it's the system that he's playing in, and it's been the same because Armando Broja and Beto have all come in and done this exact same thing as him. At what point are people going to realise it's not the personnel? It's the person putting them out there. It's
Yeah.
it's not a case of, look, Evertonians will happily sit back and watch boring football as long as we're fighting at the right end of the table and we're getting results. And we just aren't doing that, and that is where the problem is. So I'd take a 1-0 every week. I'd take 0-0s and 1-1s and stuff like that. But when you've let three in, you've got to be able to score three.
Yeah.
And when you've not let any in, you've got to be able to score one. That's the basic maths of football, and it just seems that we aren't able to combat what the opposition are doing. And coming out and having one system for every single match, it's just not acceptable anymore in this day and age of football. You can't. The days of playing your own game and seeing what happens it's over now. And I think that's something that Andoni Iraola is quite good at, is using the players to his advantage, because there's so much
Yeah.
quality in that team, isn't there?
Oh yeah,
But
there is.
let's talk about the danger men for Bournemouth, and
Yeah.
I think one of them definitely is Semenyo, but I'm not sure if he'll be able to play. Dango Watara as well as a player I really like.
Yeah, so Semenyo is definitely my player of the season so far. He's been absolutely excellent. I think he is nursing an injury. You know, it does look like that. He's not been himself the past couple of games, I don't feel. But he's played a lot of football. So, really, is this game maybe one game too far for him? Um, it probably is. It probably is. He needs a bit of a rest. He probably does need to, and I'm sure it's an injury. I'm sure there's probably a little bit of a niggle on his, either his leg or he's pulled or strained something. So, yeah, I think that is probably, something that needs to be addressed. Um, but what other options have we got? This is the problem at the moment because we have got so many injuries. So Semenyo, I think, probably will be played out of necessity rather than we could probably rest him for the West Brom game, but then we got Chelsea straight after. Dongo Watara is an excellent player. Now he's an interesting one. He's probably more effective off the bench than he is in the starting 11. But again, at this moment in time, because of injuries, we're having to play him there. He's a player that he'll do nine things, and you'll think, okay, what's he trying to achieve there? And then one time he'll pull off something spectacular, and it probably result in a goal. So Dongo is somebody who you can expect the unexpected from, if that makes sense. So he's a very, very good player. Milos Kerkez, the left back, he is wanted by that team across the park. Should we call them that? He is wanted by them, if you are to believe the rumours. He's excellent, gets the ball into the box a lot, very, very quick, very good defensively, knows his position. And then the central defenders as well. I've got to give a shout out to them, Dean Howson and Ilya Zabanier. But of course, Senesi is injured, and he was getting the shoe in rather than Howson. It was rumoured that Howson wasn't very happy because he signed from Juventus. He expected to play for AFC Bournemouth and wasn't getting his game time. So he's been given that opportunity, and I can't see a place back in for Senesi. You know, central defenders are that strong. That it's a attractive headache to have. That we've got three that you're going. What two does he actually pick? You know, a play. Senesi's great player. He could become fit tomorrow, and he wouldn't be able to get in the squad because the other two are just keeping him out because they are just playing that well. So we've got we've got great options all over the pitch, and it's just a joy to see Evan Nielsen up front. Of course, £40 million is a huge amount to pay for a striker for this football club in particular. Um, but he's done absolutely brilliant since joining us from Porto. Um, you know, couldn't you know struggled to find his shooting boots at first, but he has definitely found that now. But he does so much more as well. He's a real awkward player in the box as well. So yeah, I would say those are my players. Semenyo, 100%, absolutely love the man. He is my player of the season so far.
And I suppose the only Everton danger man that you'll be looking out for is Iliman Ndiaye. He's the only real player who's come into our club and looks like someone who's not relegation fodder at the moment.
To be perfectly honest, he caused us an absolute headache in that previous match, as you can probably remember. And I'm sure he was taken off, wasn't he?
Yeah,
Taken,
this was
yeah,
during the whole thing. I mean, Everton is like a soap opera. This was during the whole Sean Dyche era of taking him off when we were 1-0 up or 2-0 up, and we do was because you see the best thing about Ndiaye is that he's not just a great force going forward. We're more than happy to track back, and he's also the out ball. Whenever we have the ball in defence, you can kick it to him and it sticks to him like Velcro. So we miss that when he's not playing.
Yeah, I've just had a little look actually, and it kind of was. This was the perfect storm because in Jai, you were 2 up. That he was causing all sorts of problems for us, and it was literally 4 minutes later that Semenyo scored that goal to start the comeback on the 87th minute, and it was a perfect storm with some great substitutions by Iriola. Um, is it fair to say that the substitutions by Sean Dyche were pretty terrible, really?
The substitutions for Sean Dyche won that game for Bournemouth. I mean, there's
Yeah,
no. It's fair to say, of course, that you've got some great players and the will to win. I mean, you have to have the will to win with 3 minutes of normal time left
yeah.
to go and win a football match from 2-0 down anyway. But definitely helped him taking Iliman and Di off. Obviously, at your place, we don't do very well. We struggle. Last year, of course, there was that heartbreak for us in the last minute when Seamus Coleman
Mm.
put one in his own net. But what are your score predictions for this one, Craig?
I think it's going to be a bit more difficult. Sean Dyche knows he needs to get points on the board. I think I don't think Everton will win the game, but I think you could come here and get a draw. And I'm basing this off your draws against Man City and Arsenal. The reason being is you will shut up shop against us. You'll make it difficult. We do play like both of those sides. We press, from attack, the high press. Um, so Sean Dyche will frustrate us, I think. It's not going to be an attractive match to watch, but at the same time, it's it'll be effective from Sean Dyche's perspective. Should Everton be, you know, winning more games than what they are at the moment? Most definitely, and I think Sean Dyche. There is this argument as well, and this argument I've heard not just from Bournemouth fans, but from fans across the whole of the Premier League. If Everton were to sack Sean Dyche, it could put the club into relegation trouble. And the main reason being is what happened at Burnley is that there was these players that were so fixated on playing in that style that when they got rid of the man at the top, that it all fell to pieces. I have spoken to Everton fans though, and I got to be honest, I think your players are far, far better than what he had at Burnley. Let's be fair, you shouldn't be, drawing the amount of games you are. You should be converting them into wins. And my opinion on Sean Dyche is that maybe he's come in, he's done a job, he's stabilised the club, but to move forwards, the new owners need to make that change pretty sharpish.
Well, that is what most supporters say when they're on these videos with me. Personally, I'm going to go for 3-0 Bournemouth. I think this is the type of game that we just struggle in massively. We're all right going away to the likes of City and Arsenal. Um, as soon as we come up against a team who play a little bit differently and maybe, you know, a sort of around, not should be, no one should
Yeah,
be anywhere, but not one of those teams that if you go away and get a point, it's really, really impressive. We struggle really badly. I mean, we lost 3-0 to Wolves last season. We've lost a lot of games this season quite poorly. We often never really win away at these sort of grounds. So, I mean, one away win all season tells you all you have to know, really, Craig, against Ipswich. So, I think this is one where we could ship a lot of goals personally. Um, and yeah, I think Bournemouth are just in too good form for me.
no, fair enough, fair enough. I think he's going to make it difficult for us, but there is one thing, and one very, very silver lining at the end of all this. I cannot see the new owners having Sean Dyche in place at that new stadium. There is, I cannot see it. I can't see it. I think they'll get a big name. I think they'll try and do something completely different. And I think they'll try and bring in a brand like we have of attractive football and effective football. Um, it might take a little bit of time to get going once it happens, like we found, and like I was too impatient, to stand by it first. My own fault. But personally, can you really see Sean Dyche opening that new stadium at,
No.
Bramley-Moore Dock? Not in a million years. So better times are on the horizon. I can assure you that.
I hope you're right, Craig. Should we get on to our lineup quiz anyway? We haven't done one in
Go for it.
a
Go
couple of
for it.
videos. These ones are quite fun. This one, of course, was a cracking game for the Premier League neutrals. It was the 3-3 in November 2015.
Oh,
I
yeah,
think this is Bournemouth's first season in the top flight.
yeah.
Yeah, and of course there is actually a former Everton player, three. Yeah, let me just check before I keep. There's three
Yeah,
former Everton players in this Bournemouth team, and of course we do get the comment section running by just get your former Everton and
start
Bournemouth players in
scribbling
the
them
end,
down.
and then
I'm not
at
going to
the
cheat.
end.
I'm not going to cheat. So I've got the notebook and pen, so you know that I'm not. Um,
But yeah, so if you want the date, this is the 28th of November 2015. You obviously play along at home and also in the comment section down below. Get down some former Bournemouth and Everton players, and I'll read some out at the end. So who do you think might have been in goal in this one,
uh,
Craig?
it's got to be Artur Boruc.
It's not Artur
Oh,
Boruc. He must have been injured or something like that.
he's got to be
Um,
Begovic then. This has to be Begovic.
no, he's there's actually that would have been a fourth, wouldn't it? If there was
Oh,
another former Everton player in. This is one that I think played quite a lot in the Championship for you. He's not English. He's not even from this continent. He's a one that I would have completely forgot about.
I'm trying to think now. So Boruc,
You can always
Federici,
skip it, and it is Federici. Yeah, so there you go.
Federici.
There's your first one. So you're back four. Yeah, this is bringing back a few memories. One of
Yeah.
them is one of the former Everton players.
So, um, this is a challenge. I'm liking this.
Mm.
Charlie Daniels.
Charlie Daniels, yeah.
Yeah. Steve Cook.
Yeah.
Simon Francis.
And then can you get the centre back?
Ooh.
Former Bournemouth and Everton player.
Oh, I'm gonna have to pass. I'm gonna kick myself once you tell
I'll
me.
give you a hint. I'll tell you that this player spent one season at Bournemouth before retiring.
Oh, Sylvan Distan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
big,
Sylvan
big,
Distan.
big
Uh,
Sly. He played for that would have been 6 seasons at Everton.
yes.
Um, one that I remember very well. He's one that I grew up with,
Yeah.
Distan, and he was a solid player, but he finished his career off at AFC Bournemouth, I think. And then in midfield, you've got three players, one of which is another former Everton player.
So that player will be Gosling.
hmm
And
He's remembered for one very famous goal, Dan Gosling. Can't remember anything else about him, but he scored the winner in extra time against Liverpool in the FA Cup.
he's quality player for us. Absolute quality player. Um, Harry Arter.
Yeah, Harry Arter was probably the standout player, wasn't he, for Bournemouth that season, along with
Yeah, he
one of the
was.
attackers.
Yeah, he was. And Andrew Sermon.
Yeah. Oh, actually, yeah. Sorry, this is a 4-5-1 formation. So yeah,
Ah,
you have one attacker really, but yeah, Drew
yeah.
Sermon. It says, do you see here?
So,
Started as a midfielder. So you've got two more. You've got a left winger and a right winger.
up front, I think.
Another former Everton player. He's the striker.
Ah, yeah. Josh King would have been up front then.
Yeah, the scourge of Everton, Josh King.
Yeah.
He joined Everton. in the COVID season under Ancelotti. I think he scored 1 goal for Everton, left straight away,
Yeah.
straight as soon as his loan deal ended, and then scored 2 against us for Watford at Bournemouth at Goodison the next season after. So he's not very well liked at Everton, Josh King. But there's
No.
um, there's 2 more players in this team, a left winger and a right winger. Um, one of them I think is still playing in the Premier League. He might have left now, but he would certainly was last season. Just
I'm
think
gonna
about
kick. I'm
have
gonna
a
kick.
think about Bournemouth from that sort of time.
Oh, crikey. Callum Wilson.
No, it wasn't Callum Wilson.
No. No.
It
He
was an
must have been
Englishman.
injured.
Was an Englishman. An
Oh,
Englishman.
how could I? Mark Pugh. Mark Pugh.
It wasn't Mark Pugh.
No.
This player scored 2 of the goals in this game. So you might remember that this game was a bit of a mad one. We were 2-0 up at half time.
Yeah.
We then there was a goal from one of the substitutes. This player got one on the 87th, and it was 2-2. Ross Barkley scored in injury time, only for it to be equalised yet again by the same player, and he's not very well liked at Everton because of it. You will kick yourself, Craig. I'm
I am
telling
gonna
you.
kick myself.
Because this is the player that pretty much sums up Bournemouth during that period. Came into the Premier League, and he was the scourge of everyone. Really, he used to score a lot. He scored quite a few goals.
I'm
Can
gonna
you
kick.
get it? Left
No.
wing. It's Junior Stanislas.
Oh, of course it is. Yeah, he retired a couple of years back.
Yeah, yeah. He
Oh,
scored
yes.
two in the last 10. So there you go. Bournemouth again. Fantastic at their comebacks against
Yeah.
Everton. Can you think of who any of the subs might have been? Because there was one sub who came on for Adam Federici in goal, and then one of the subs in defence came on and scored, and then a player who is now retired came on.
Right. Okay. So, Boric must have been injured. Begovic wasn't in the squad at all.
No, I've never heard of this lad. He must have probably moved on into the lower leagues after.
I think Ryan Alsop.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he's at
You've
Birmingham.
made up for Stanislas there, haven't you, with that one?
Yeah,
Um,
he's at Birmingham City now. Yeah, he was at Wickham for a while.
mhm.
But yeah, nice chap, Ryan.
Well, he'll have a tough job, won't he? Wickham and Birmingham both flying at the top of League One now this season.
Yes,
One of the subs was a defender, came on and scored. He came on at half time for Steve Cook. Still at the club.
Adam Smith.
Yeah, I had no idea he was even at the club until I
Yeah,
saw him the other day, and I couldn't believe it that he
yes,
was still
he's
playing.
injured at the moment.
And then 76 minutes, you lot must have thrown on a big lump to sort of try and get something back. Left Bournemouth not too long after this. I think he might have been on loan at Bournemouth this season, but don't take that as gospel. Now retired. You might see him wearing his flat cap on BT Sport every now and then.
Oh,
Very tall. Probably what he was most famous for.
do you know what? I'm messing up with the most obvious ones, aren't I? Ryan Alsop, yeah, absolutely
Yeah,
spot on. But flag cap. I'm gonna kick myself, aren't I?
it was Glenn Murray, Craig.
Oh, Glenn Murray, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh, Glenn
Well,
Murray.
do you know what? You did very well there because I think you deserve 2 points for getting Ryan Allsop. But of course, players who play for Bournemouth, there was a few of them there as well. You could have had Asmir Begovic, as of course, one,
Yep.
who's back at the club now. Pretty much sums up Everton's transfer dealings in the last few years to release a goalkeeper. Couldn't find a player to replace a goalkeeper with the same player. Sylvain Distin, of course, Josh King, Dan Gosling, Christian Atsu, of course, who sadly
Yes.
passed away last year. Arnaut Danjuma, never really done much at Everton, and probably the most famous of the lot. The only player in them who won a trophy with Everton was Joe Parkinson. So yeah, but just to finish off though, Craig, of course, I've been doing it this season. Mount Rushmore for Bournemouth. I'm sure you're aware of the concept. The four most the four biggest names in Bournemouth history?
Um, well, the big one has to be Steve Fletcher up front. He is a man that without this football club wouldn't be here. He's still about the football club. He is a Mount Rushmore. He is huge, but a lovely man as well, and epitomises everything about what this makes this football club great. Um, Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe is an absolute legend. Um, was very, very unlucky as a player and very, very injury prone. However, as a manager, and again, what he's done for this football club cannot be beaten. It cannot be beaten at all. Um,
Mm.
and then there's so many players that you could pick throughout the years, especially from that 2015 team that were promoted into Premier League first time round. I've got to go with somebody like Mark Pugh. Mark Pugh really, he was signed for a minimal fee from Hereford United, and guided the team up the divisions. So an absolute legend, Mark is. And I'm trying to think and keep it quite fair, but I can't really think of really a goalkeeper that I would say as part of this. But I would say, as he's still at the club, and to be honest, well, you could probably say two of them, Tommy Elphick and Simon Francis. Those two, still at the club, were part of that 2014-2015 promotion into the Premier League in the first place. Both of them were vital, staying there. So, albeit, yes, we're in great form at the moment. We've got a great team. This is the best team we've ever had. I don't think any Bournemouth fan would turn around and say that anything will ever surpass that first promotion because A, it was kind of unexpected, but B, it was something that's made this club into something sustainable for the future.
Yeah, well, when you've been in the position that Bournemouth have,
Yeah,
um, I think that's completely warranted to say that those players deserve to be in there. But thank you so much for joining us again, Craig. Of course, go
my
and
pleasure, Steve.
follow Up the Cherries in all departments, isn't it? On YouTube, you can go and find
It
yourself.
is, yes, yes, it
Yeah,
is. And in fact,
and
we
yeah.
have had a couple of people on the Everton fans will be interested in. So Damon Minchella from Ocean Colour Scene. So he's quite an interesting guy to listen to. And also Paul Rideout, the
Oh
scorer
well.
of that 1995 FA Cup goal,
Hmm.
believe it or not, was from Bournemouth.
Oh wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, he was
Wow.
from, well, Lymington, but yeah, we'll claim
Hmm.
Lymington as part of Bournemouth. But yeah, go and take a listen.
Yeah, definitely go and have a look at that. Blues. Definitely an interesting one, and of course Craig's a top bloke as well. So yeah, definitely an interesting one for you to look at. Of course, we'll have to wait until this weekend to see if Bournemouth are going to be the scourge of Everton once again. Of course, my predictions say so. I think, to be honest, Craig's being a little bit modest with his predictions there, but of course, Craig, thank you so much for coming on. Make sure you
My
like
pleasure.
and subscribe to the Toffee Blues, and we'll see you in the next one.